Welcome to NatureHacker Mind. I am your host, NatureHacker. So today I've been researching a lot about Bigfoot, and I've been commenting on some YouTube videos, and one person said in the Patterson-Gimlin film, which is the most widely known Bigfoot proof, and basically said that it looks like the guy's wearing booties. There's no toes on the feet. And so I had just seen a website that talked about frame 61 of the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot footage that showed the Bigfoot's toes. It showed the bottom of the Bigfoot's foot and the toes. So in 2014, a website reported on that, and I will link to that in the description below. It's a good article on it. So I pointed him to that article, and he comes back and says, the Bigfoot's just wearing booties. Are you gonna get even angrier? And just basically agitating. He's a agitator. And after I responded the next time, he blocked me, and therefore my comments disappeared from his comment. So, but what I did next was I took that picture of the bottom of Bigfoot's foot, and I cropped it and I rotated it, and I got it positioned in a vertical position. Then I had also been studying the Patterson footprints, and I had been studying that a lot lately, and thinking that if this was real, and it seemed to be real because there's many footprints at the Patterson site, Bluff Creek it was called, and even a forest ranger came by after Patterson made the footage and saw the footprints and took extra casts. So Patterson only had enough plaster for 2 casts, one of each foot, so he picked the best ones at the scene. But then later on, this park ranger comes and casts all of the other footprints there, which is probably 10 footprints, so a lot of corroborating data. And one of the footprints had a mid-tarsal break, which means that it lands on the heel, but then the front of the foot digs out, so that there's this big ridge in the middle of the footprint, which would have been impossible to make with a footprinting device or anything. And the footprints are so deep that that something very, very heavy had to make them. So it would have been impossible really to drive these footprints that far into the ground, with a couple of them, let alone having a dozen footprints there. So there's a lot of evidence there, and this Patterson footage also had been proven to me just by the way that the creature walks. If you see any fake, I've looked at a lot of Bigfoot footage, and there's a lot of fake stuff out there. You can tell the fake ones by, if a person's walking through the forest, they're going to be walking very slowly and, lifting their legs high, to step over rocks and logs and twigs and stuff, and kind of getting off balance and throwing their arms up, to balance themselves. But a Bigfoot would never do this. So when you look at the Patterson footage, the creature is walking like it's gliding on a cloud. It's just walking like it's walking on the beach, and it's walking through a creek with rocks and logs and everything. A flood zone, actually. It was a flood zone. So this is very rough terrain, and this creature is just walking with huge strides, and just like it's walking on the beach, just super casually walking. It even turns its head for a couple steps, and it's walking without even looking in front of it, which would be totally impossible for a dude in a monkey suit to do. So that proved it to me. But just for further proof, when I saw this guy's comment and how he was insulting me and trying to provoke me, agitate me, what I did is I took that picture, I took that frame of the Patterson footage and took the foot and then cropped it and rotated it and set it upright. So I have the picture of the foot there. Nobody else has ever done this. This is the first time anyone has cropped that foot and set it up. Now what I also did is those footprints, the perfect prints that were cast by Patterson, I took the right one of that, and this is the right foot of the Bigfoot that we see, and I took the right print, and what I did is I lined up the pictures, the picture of the image of the foot on the movie, and lined it up with the cast that Patterson made of the footprint that he found. I put them one on top of each other, and then I turned down the opacity, and what happened just floored me, absolutely floored me. When I saw this, I got out of my chair and walked around just in shock, just hyperventilating, my eyes wide open, just walking around just in shock, thinking of, oh man, I have to call somebody, tell somebody, this is insane, just so crazy. So I went back and took pictures of this, me scaling the opacity, and took pictures of it so you can see the basically morphing one foot picture into the other, and it's an absolute exact match. It is a 100% exact match. And this, somebody might say, oh, well, of course it's a match because those are the feet on the Bigfoot costume, and as he walked, he left these footprints as he walked, right? Well, I mean, first of all, it's impossible to leave footprints that deep because they came by after they left their footprints, and their footprints went down like very little, like maybe a quarter inch, but this footprint was an entire like inch deep. So just from walking in a Bigfoot suit, you're not going to make footprints this deep, and the foot is so much bigger than a human foot that it's like walking with a snowshoe. You're not even going to sink in the ground at all with this big foot on. It would distribute your weight so much that you wouldn't sink in at all, let alone like 4 times deeper than a human footprint next to it. So there's no way that these came from that Bigfoot suit. So the other option would be that they made the footprints using a cast that they forged. So they have a forged cast, and then they make the feet on a Bigfoot costume be an exact replica of the cast they're going to use. And then they use that cast to make these footprints, but that doesn't work because there's that one footprint with a mid-tarsal break, which is absolutely impossible to make with a cast. It has to be a natural footprint. If you look up the mid-tarsal break Bigfoot, it's a picture. They took a picture of the footprint and they made a cast of it. So there's a ton of evidence for that. So that would have been, and that matches exactly with the other footprints, and it would have been impossible to make that footprint by just pressing a cast into the ground. Absolutely 100% impossible. It can't be done. So there's that. And so that leaves us with the only possibility, which is this creature is real, and it's about 700 pounds, and it made these tracks, which is an amazing thing to come to. And please look in the description. I will link to my website where I do a full breakdown and show all of the pictures on my site. So that's pretty much it for that. As far as that is concerned, I feel that is a 100% proof of Bigfoot existing. And and there's a lot of hoaxes out there, but there are Bigfoot. And you know what, Roger Patterson, he was just on it. He was just, it's like you can't expect some random guy to go in and play in the NBA and, score, a three-pointer at the buzzer. You can't expect that. You can't expect somebody to come in from the stands and go one-on-one with Kobe Bryant and win, and you can't expect just a random person to find Bigfoot just hiking somewhere. But Roger Patterson was not a normal person. He was like a Kobe Bryant of Bigfoot hunting. He had written books on this. He knew what he was doing. He studied the Indian legends. He knew exactly what to expect. And what he did was, whenever there was a sighting, he went there right away. If people sighted Bigfoot, they saw footprints, he was there. He was doing photography of the footprints. He was making casts, etc. So this guy knew what he was doing, and he knew that when there was Bigfoot activity, that's when he could find it. So he was looking for this. He was searching for Bigfoot. He had his camera bag open and ready to grab his camera immediately. I mean, a normal person walking through the woods is not going to have a camera handy. And even though Patterson had a camera handy, he just barely got the shot off. So it's a 1 in a million. And he was the one who was able to do it because he had trained for it. He was practiced. He was ready for it. He was crazed. He was literally crazed, and he did it. He nailed it, and he knocked it out of the park. Not only did he get the best footage of a Bigfoot in the history of the world in 1967, which is 40 years ago. 40 years ago, he got the best footage of Bigfoot the world has ever seen, and the best footprints cast that the world has ever seen. I mean, he was very lucky with that, because luckily there was a place that the Bigfoot walked that laid these perfect footprints. They are the most perfect footprints ever recorded in the history of the world. So, it's just an amazing thing, and I have really yet to see many more real footages. I do feel like I have seen one real footage, and it was one other real footage, and it was of a Bigfoot that was stalking people, and basically what it would do is it walked up in front of them in their direction of travel, so then they stopped. And then it turned around and walked behind them in a big arc. And this thing was walking through the dense woods very quickly and totally at ease. Like walking on the beach, walking through woods like on the beach, stepping, over boulders and twigs and branches and logs and everything, just like nothing. So that really shows me that is real. So there's not many real footages out there, but there are some, but nothing as good as the Patterson footage. So anyway, I feel that Bigfoot is 100% proven. So other things that I have been thinking about and working on was about Nibiru, and I'm going to do another part 3 on my main channel talking about this and more, hopefully, but I didn't want to do too much in-depth research tonight. That's why I'm doing a NatureHacker Mind podcast, is because I kind of wanted to chill and not think too hard. But please do check out my Bigfoot article on naturehackerproducts.com, because I feel like it's a game changer. I feel like it's some of the best proof of Bigfoot out there, that article I wrote on my site. So check that out. And the next thing I want to talk about is I was looking at it's a proven 100% fact that Comet Ison, when it came by and we went through its tail in January 2013, it's 100% proven that tail was made up of cyanogen gas, which is cyanide. All right. Now, it's also 100% true that there were megatons of cyanide that came to Earth. You have to understand that we are just a planet in the middle of space. Okay, so there's no roof over our head. This when we passed through the comet's tail, which we did, megatons of cyanide came into our atmosphere and has now mostly settled onto our grounds and waters and crops and everything. So we are being absolutely inundated with cyanide right now. And I'm going to go in depth on how to detox that tomorrow on my Nature Hacker channel. But just to give you a start, the things to do are nitrates, or preferably nitrites, but nitrites aren't that good for you just to take nitrites. So it's best to take nitrates, and then your body converts some of it to nitrites. So nitrates and sulfates, preferably thiosulfates, THIO sulfates. But I don't really know how to get the thiols on the sulfates. I could look into making thiosulfate, but for now, sulfate will really help. So that's nitrate and sulfate, okay? And then cobalt. So nitrate, sulfate, and cobalt. And it just so happens that one of my products, it's called Stable now, but it's going to be rebranded as Refresh. That product has large amounts of nitrates and sulfates in it, so that will really help detox the cyanide from Comet Ison's tail that we have consumed. And if you notice a greenish haze on the horizon, that is the cyanide, which has subsided somewhat over the years since 2013. And when we went through the Comet Ison's tail right at the beginning, I saw a very distinct and strong green haze on the horizon for months and years after that. But now it seems as though we are going through Nibiru's tail, which is a red comet-like planet, and so the red is superimposing on the green on the horizons. And you should be able to see this when you look to the horizons. You should see reddish-green horizon, especially near sunrise and sunset. Not necessarily looking at the sun at sunrise and sunset, but looking at the horizon to the left and right. You should see greenish-reddish haze. Greenish from Ison, reddish from Nibiru. And anyway, so cobalt makes B12, and that also helps to detox cyanide, because the cyanide attaches to B12, forming cyanocobalamin. So that's that. And then as far as Nibiru is concerned, the thing to detox that, which is going to be iron oxide. And I also wanted to get into the phases of the ages in the world since 0 AD, and I will get to that in a second. But so the iron oxide in Nibiru, and that I believe is the dust cloud that we're going through right now, that iron oxide will affect diseases and sicknesses and microbe growth. So that will cause an increase in microbe growth, which will cause fish deaths, because microbe overgrowth in waters makes it so that the oxygen is sucked out of the water, so that there's no dissolved oxygen, and it will make fish die. And I just had a very unfortunate situation today where one of my goldfish died, and it was a very sad experience. I've never had an animal that I've cared for die, and I really never have had any other animals other than just a couple goldfish that I have right now. But I spent a lot of time trying to revive it, and I couldn't. So, yeah, very sad situation. But mass fish deaths will occur with this iron oxide coming through, and also it will just cause more cancers, more microbe growth, more diseases in humans. So the way to counteract excess iron like that is to use tannins. Tannins are an excellent way to remove iron. And one of the things with iron overload is that it can make your heart beat irregularly. It can make you feel like your heart's skipping a beat or kind of out of sync. It feels like your heart's out of sync or something. That can easily be caused by iron overload, and I've had it a lot from taking too much iron. And so tannins, you can take tannins and it practically immediately reverses this. And if you do have iron overload, the tannins will stop the irregularity with your heart, but you kind of have to keep on them for weeks and stuff before you can get your iron levels in check to where you can stop taking the tannins. But so tannins are our friend, and tannins, the cheapest source for tannins are called wine tannins. It's from grape skin. But actually, you know what? I'm worried about wine tannins because I'm worried about herbicides and pesticides being sprayed. And if we're taking tannins from the wine skin, then there would probably be a lot of herbicide and pesticide residue. So I'm going to not do the wine tannins. But things like grapeseed extract is very high in tannins. The adaptogen rhodiola, 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 is an amazing product because it contains a high amount of tannins, plus it contains triterpenoid saponins. So you are getting an adaptogen which will help heal your adrenal fatigue and insomnia, and at the same time protect yourself from Nibiru dust from this iron oxide. And so I also will have a product out soon to combat this. So that is some stuff that you can think about, and that is ISON and Nibiru and things to cure them and prevent them from hurting you. So let me go into the ages, and I believe that in my Nature Hacker channel I have talked about how there are two very possible theories, and one of them is one that another guy made, and that is that every 333 years from 15 AD there was a comet that came by, and that this comet is the horsemen and the seals of Revelation 6, and that we are now just beginning the seventh seal, and Ison was the comet that comes every 333 years, and the last one was 1680 AD, where there was a comet and a great earthquake, and that was prophesied as the sixth seal of Revelation 6, and that could very well be true, because the Revelation does predict a giant earthquake, which did actually happen. So then that would mean the fifth seal was the Black Plague, which was 1347. That was 333 years before 1680. And there was a comet known there named Comet Negra. So that would have been the fifth seal, which is the seal that the martyrs are like, how much longer, how much longer? So that's possible as well. But my thought is a little different, and I think that comet comes every 666 years. And so that would mean that the White Horseman was 15 AD, the Red Horseman was 680 AD, the Black Horseman was 1347 AD, and the Green Horseman, some people call it pale, but that's a mistranslation of the Greek. The Greek word means green, and I will point that out more in my Nature Hacker channel video tomorrow. So the Green Horseman came 2012, 2013. So I think my theory lines up better because we have the Green Horseman with the Green Comet being Ison. We have the Black Horseman with the Black Comet being Negra. We have the Red Horseman, and then we have the White Horseman. So I feel like it lines up more with the colors, with the revelation, and things like that. So I do feel that that is some extra evidence on my interpretation, and I do favor my interpretation. And not that I want my interpretation to be right, because I came up with my interpretation because I had already weighed the evidence of both theories. And I feel like the 666-year theory is more probable, and not to mention the fact that it's 666, which is also mentioned specifically in Revelation. So I feel that is also significant. The White Horseman being the rise of Rome. Like the man on a white horse. Rome was like a man on a white horse promising better life for everybody. The Red Horseman was the horseman of the sword, and that very accurately represents the Muslim rise, the rise of Islam in around 680 when the horseman arrived, the Red Horseman arrived. The rise of Islam was right in that time period, and it caused a lot of bloodshed, and that was the age of the Red Horseman, which was given a sword to cause bloodshed. So I feel that lines up very well. And the Black Horseman, where the horseman, is black, and we know a comet did come by 1347, and it was a black comet called Comet Negra. So that lines up there. And the horseman carried scales, saying, basically that it would cost a day's work just to get enough grain to survive. You would all of your money would just go into food to survive. And except it says, do not harm the oil or the wine, which means that there will be rich people. There will be two classes. There will be the slave class and the rich class. And that this would happen with the scales, which is banking. So it was the age of the banksters. And this started with the Renaissance. The Renaissance was actually funded by the banksters. They were called the Medici, which were the bankers of Italy. And they started the Renaissance. It was the banker-funded Renaissance. This has been the banker age up until 2013. And now we can see that the banker age is failing, as the banks can no longer stabilize the world economy. So that also lends credence to this theory that from 1347 to 2013 was the age of the bankers, the Black Age, the Black Horseman. And now we are in the Green Horseman. And in the Green Horseman, what we see is that Hades comes quickly after the Green Horseman, which Hades is a word for Pluto. And Pluto is the 9th planet, and the previous Pluto was not the actual Pluto that the ancients referred to. The ancients referred to Nibiru. They didn't know about that little planet we used to call Pluto. They knew about Nibiru, and that was the 9th planet for them. And that's why they had to demote Pluto, is because Nibiru, the real Pluto, the Hades, is coming soon. So this is more evidence that we are in the 4th seal of Revelation 6:8. So, so that means that Hades is coming quickly, and I feel like Hades is right on the doorstep because we went through its dust cloud, its tail, so to speak. So we should be seeing it pop up somewhere in the next year. That is where we're at. If we are in the 7th seal, like the other guy says, the guy with the 333-year theory, then if that were the case, then nothing would happen from 2013 until 2033. And in 2033, a third of the world would be burned up. And I was just thinking about it, and this could mean possibly volcanic activity, which could mean the Yellowstone caldera. So it is possible that we are in the seventh seal, and that if that were the case, in 2033, Yellowstone would explode. And why do I know the year 2033? Well, it says that there was a silence in heaven for a half an hour, which actually means that after the comet comes, because this is all signs in the heavens. Revelation is all signs in the heavens. That's what the Magi that found Christ followed the Star of Bethlehem. The Magi had their eyes to the sky because they knew that the signs in the heavens told what was going on. So Revelation is all about signs in the heavens, and it says that there's a quiet in the heavens for a half an hour. That means that the comet comes, like it always does, every either 666 or every 333 years, whichever one's correct. And then a half an hour, we can look at and see that the Bible says that an hour with God, 1,000 years is like an hour with God. So we can, or one day. I think it says one day is like a year with God. So we scale that out, and a half hour turns into 20 years, like 20.8 years or something. So that would lead us to 2033. If we are on the seventh seal, that would mean a third of the earth is burned up. So that the only thing I can think of is, the Ring of Fire, Yellowstone, just a lot of volcanic activity just explodes all at once in 2033. But I don't think we are in the seventh seal. Like I said, I think we are in the fourth seal, and that would mean that Nibiru comes next, and that the things that are going to need to worry about in this seal are famine, so food shortages, lack of food, pestilence, disease, wild animals, so like Bigfoots, things like that. If a Bigfoot wanted to get people, it could, and it could do a lot of damage if all the Bigfoot started going after people. Which we have seen some evidence of in a book and YouTube videos called Missing 411. So there is some evidence of that. And so wild animals, pestilence, famine, and bloodshed. So another thing I want to talk about is that the red, remember how the red comet in 680 denoted the rise of Islam and bloodshed like Islam. Now, there's also going to be the sword. The sword was given to the Red Rider. The sword is also going to be a part of this age. This age is somewhat of a collaboration of all of the other riders. So we thought it was bad in the Dark Ages. If we're in the fourth seal now, this is going to be much worse than the Dark Ages. What we are going into right now is much worse than the Dark Ages, okay? I just want that point to hit home. It will be like the Dark Ages plus, the Dark Ages with the bubonic plague plus bloodshed of Islam from the 600s plus, giant what do you call it? Empires like the Roman Empire. So it'll be the combination of empires, disease, Dark Age, pestilence, bloodshed from Muslims ravaging the earth, and wild animals going nuts and killing people. This is going to be the worst situation on earth since the flood, the worldwide flood, which is absolutely mind-blowing to think about. And this is going to be make the Dark Ages look like patty cake. It's going to make the Muslim hordes of the 600s, 700s look like patty cake. It's going to make all of it. It's going to make the bubonic plague look like nothing. This is a very, very bad time. But this is not the end. This is not the time when the mark of the beast will come. That's in the 7th seal. So we just have to worry about surviving. Surviving the collapses coming, and the hordes and the diseases and the wild animals. So it's time to focus on those areas and see what we can do to prepare. So thanks for listening to Nature Hacker Mind. I'll see you tomorrow.